might not know this, some people will know this, that the 27th of December 2022, I had this idea of writing online, but I didn't know anything about it. So I went onto Amazon and I found this book for about $8, $9 by Nicolas called Never Heard of Him. And I'd never heard of Medium or any of it. I wasn't on LinkedIn or Twitter, but I bought the book and I read it over Christmas. And I devoured it in about 3 days. And I read Cole's story and I was like, I can't. He sounds like a genuine guy, but I actually can't believe that this is true, that you can write online and get so many people to follow you and make so much money. So I read it again within the next
Mhm.
day. And then I was like, I've never heard of this Medium thing. He's talking about Medium. What is it? So January the 2nd, 2023, I landed on Medium and I published my first article. And then you fast forward like 11 months later, I'm devouring Cole's book, The Art of Business Writing, following all the tips. Started getting maybe 1,000 followers a month or something like that on Medium. And then, so 11 months later, I go back to Cole and I buy one of his courses. I don't know if you remember, I don't think it's around now, but you had a course called Full Stack Writer, I think it was called.
Mhm.
And I bought that, and that's all about the particular bit I looked at was about creating digital products. So I read that and I followed Cole's advice to the letter and created my first digital product 12 months after starting writing. And probably the course from memory might have been something like $150, something like that. It wasn't a lot now, but actually at the time it felt like a crazy amount of money. But then, like within 7 days, my first digital product had made like $1,700, which for me at that time just like blew my mind. It was like a 10x return on investment. And then since then, went on to earn enough that I could speak to my boss and say, hey, there's parts of my job I don't like, and I've quit some of that and doing a lot of stuff online. And I guess the reason that I say that is for everyone who's on my list is not to kind of blow smoke, but to kind of say when TJ, who works for Cole, reached out and said, actually, would you like Cole to deliver some stuff to your audience? I was like, yes, straight away, because his stuff's been so valuable to me. And so when he offered to kind of do some free stuff for you guys, I was really keen to jump into that. And so I say that just to kind of give my own experience of that. And just a couple of weeks ago, I bought Cole's one of his ghostwriting courses, Right to Wealth, and I'm about halfway through that at the moment, watching a bit more of it today. And honestly, I would say this if Cole wasn't in the room. It just blew my mind, the quality of his input and the clarity in which he explains stuff. So I'm just like so excited that you're with us, Cole, and you're able to just kind of, I don't know, somehow you're able to give a lot of information really clearly in a short amount of time. And so I'm dead excited for this. And yeah, so I'm going to hand over to Cole just to kind of walk us through this. And yeah, off you go, Cole.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that intro and the kind words. That means a lot. I'm glad my book was so helpful. This is the book, by the way, if anyone wants to check it out, The Art and Business of Online Writing. I am actually in the process of adding some cool additions to this book because it's sold over, I think, 20,000 copies now at this point. So it's been a great book. So I'm continuing to add some bonuses to it as well. But today I thought it would be great to talk about monetization as a writer. Now we have the chat here, so if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll try and answer them as we go. But I think one of the things that takes the longest for people who enjoy writing to figure out is how do I actually make money from this thing? And I want to start with a high level conflict that I've observed in tens of thousands of writers now. You know, we've had tens of thousands of writers go through our different writing programs. This is also something that I have personally experienced on my own writing journey, is that I find for writers there is this cognitive dissonance and this inner challenge between the idea of writing for passion versus writing for profit. And many times, if you ask writers, why do you want to write? The first answer is they will say, I want to write because I love it. I want to write because I enjoy it. I want to write because it feeds my soul. It's fulfilling. I want to do it for myself. And then 2 seconds later, they say, and I'm frustrated because I'm not making any money. If this resonates with anyone, feel free to drop in the chat so I know, because this is a very common problem. And it has taken me a really long time to understand for myself that these do not need to be two different things. However, they are two completely different things. If you just want to write for yourself because you love the act of writing and there's nothing more to it, then you should do that. But you aren't then allowed to turn around 2 seconds later and go, and I'm so frustrated that I'm not making money because they are two different aspirations. Okay. I did not get into writing because someone told me, hey, this is the easiest, most lucrative career path on earth. It's not. There are way easier ways to make money in life. I got into it because I love writing. And to be perfectly honest, I've never been good at anything else. So the question for me, going back 10, 15 years ago, was how do I take this thing that I love and how do I make money from it? And the way that you make money from writing is the big idea you have to internalize from the very beginning is that it has nothing to do with you. Okay? How much you love writing is irrelevant. How hard you work on your writing is irrelevant. How fulfilling your writing is irrelevant. The big idea to understand is that the value of your value is the value you provide to the reader. Okay, so what does this mean? It means the literal like value of you and your writing is directly correlated to the value that you provide the reader. Okay, so whenever I explain this, I love using a silly example. For everyone here who showed up, so it looks like we've got about 15, 16 people here. You blocked time on your calendar today to hear me talk about writing. The value of my value for the next 45 minutes is directly correlated to the amount of value that I provide you. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. So when you're writing, your value is directly correlated to the amount of value that you provide the reader. It has nothing to do with you. And so we can show this with a really simple example. Let's say everyone here, you blocked an hour to learn and listen to me talk about writing. And I said, hey, everyone, we're going to cover three big things. These are the three big secrets that you need to know about making money as a writer. Number one, you got to try really hard. And number two, you got to stick with it. And number three, you got to believe in yourself. If you block an hour of your life and this is what I provide you, what is the value of that? For everyone here, like, have you ever heard you got to try really hard before? Is that new? Am I telling you anything that you don't already know? No. We have all heard that every day of our lives forever, right? So, what is the value of me telling you the same thing that you've already heard 50 million times in your lifetime, right? The value is very low. Contrast that to as we go along, if I tell you, here's how to think about monetizing, and here are the most lucrative ways to monetize, and here are the problems you can solve with your writing that make the most money. Just skimming these two lists, let's pretend this is the first hour and this is the second hour. Which hour is more valuable? If you want to take a guess, drop in the chat. Which hour is more valuable to you? Is it hour number one or is it hour number two? I think everybody here understands on some level the second hour is more valuable than the first hour, right? And on a very fundamental level, this is what the entire game of writing is all about. Okay? It is about two very basic ideas. The game of writing is about saying something different or packaging the same thing everyone has heard before in a new and different way. This is what if you take nothing else away from our time together, this is what writing is all about. You are either saying something different Like, wow, I've never heard someone articulate that before. Or wow, I've never heard someone point out that problem to me before. I've never had someone educate me on this thing before. I've never heard that type of story before, right? Or you do a similar version of conventional wisdom, like there's only so many new wheels that we can reinvent, right? So it might be a similar version of things people already know, but it's packaged in a new and different way. If you're into writing fiction, a great example of this is the hero's journey. The hero's journey has been used in a gazillion novels, right? But you can reuse that story arc by packaging it in a new and different way. Oh, here's the hero's journey, but this time it's, vampires who fall in love and fight mythical dragons. Cool. I've never seen that combination before, right? Or in nonfiction, it's, oh, I'm familiar with all these concepts, but they're packaged in a different way. They're presented in a different framework. It's easier to understand. It's more memorable, right? So this is what writing is all about. And the thing that I think takes writers a very long time to understand and why so many people struggle to make money from their writing is because they haven't yet come to terms with this cognitive dissonance, which is I want to write because I want to write. It brings me fulfillment. I. And why isn't my writing making me any money? And it took me a very long time to realize that you should actually flip those two priorities. The first priority should be what is valuable to the reader? What is the reader interested in? What problem does the reader have? What outcome does the reader want? And then I enjoy writing about that topic. I enjoy writing about that problem. I enjoy helping readers unlock that outcome. So first, just as a quick pause, does that make sense to everyone? Do we understand if your goal is to just write because you enjoy writing, by all means, go do that. Open up a journal, open up a Word doc, write whatever your heart desires, have a great time. But then you are not allowed 2 seconds later to turn around and go, and I'm frustrated that my writing isn't making me any money. They're two completely different things. If you want to make money from your writing, the priority number one, two, and three is what is the value of what I'm writing to someone else? What am I helping them with? What problem do they have that I can help them solve? What outcome do they have that I can help them unlock? Okay. So I love summarizing this as the reader is the main character, not you. You are not who matters. Okay. The reader is who matters. Now, this dovetails into um, a really great topic, which is anyone here struggling to find their niche? Or I should say niche. I said it wrong. Niche. Find your niche. Okay. Is anyone here struggling to find their niche? This is a very common problem. Now, if you take everything that I just explained, the reason why so many people struggle to find their niche is because they are trying to find a niche that is all about them. They are thinking about it in a very selfish way. They say, I want to write for myself. It's about me. I am the main character. I write because it's fulfilling to me. Me. I don't know what my niche is. That's a very hard way of solving that problem. Your niche is not about you. Your niche is about the problems and desired outcomes of your reader. Okay. In nonfiction, this would be a category or topic. Okay. So, for example, maybe it's productivity, or maybe it's meditation, or maybe it's biohacking, or maybe it's wealth building. These are all topics. Okay. When you walk into a bookstore, how is a bookstore organized? Bookstores are not organized by authors or brands. Bookstores are organized by categories, right? In fiction, the same thing is true by story category or a combination of story categories, right? So the niche in fiction is, well, this is a fantasy book, or this is a sci-fi book, or a combination, this is a romantasy book. Nice row. Yeah, right. So when you walk into a bookstore, the way that we organize information is by category first. The reader only becomes interested in you once they become interested in a category, right? And we can prove this with a very simple example. Could everyone please drop your favorite author in the chat? Doesn't matter, nonfiction, fiction, whatever. It could be one of your favorite authors. Drop your favorite author in the chat. Okay, Brandon Sanderson. That's a good one. Proust, love it. Orwell, Neil Gaiman, Agatha Christie. Nice. Lot of fiction writers here. Okay. So now ask yourself the question, pick a different category. So we'll use Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson writes fantasy. Now pick a different category and ask yourself who your favorite author is. Well, when you change the category, the author changes, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, Brandon Sanderson's great. Love his fantasy work. But then if you changed the category and you said, all right, so now what's my favorite author that writes about building habits? It's no longer Brandon Sanderson, right? It's someone else. Like, oh, actually, let's change from fantasy to literary fiction. The author changes. Brandon Sanderson doesn't write literary fiction. So this is a very important concept to understand is that you as the writer actually comes second to the category. Okay? Bookstores organize books by category. Readers organize work in their heads by category. And so everyone talks about like building yourself as a writer as like, oh, you have to build your personal brand. You have to build your brand as an author. That is a very selfish way of looking at it. It makes you think that you're what's important. Again, you are not what's important. The reader is what's important. And readers make a hierarchical decision about what to consume. When a reader walks into a bookstore, the first question they ask themselves is, what category am I interested in? Do I walk to the fantasy section? Do I walk to the sci-fi section? Do I walk to the literary section? And then inside of that section, they might even go to a subcategory. They might go to fantasy and then go, actually, I'm looking for a romance fantasy or a romantasy, right? They might go to fantasy and go, actually, I'm looking for a military fantasy or a Western fantasy. So the hierarchy is actually its category, and then it is usually also subcategory, and then it's author. You decide what category you're interested in first. Then inside of that category, you go, maybe there's a subcategory that's more specific, something actually, it's not just this big umbrella, it's this specific thing within that umbrella. And then once you're inside that umbrella, then you go, and what author best delivers on that subcategory within that broader mega category? So you, again, you are not what's important. What's important is the interests of the reader. Okay. Let's pause there for a second. Does that make sense? Everyone understand? Your niche has nothing to do with you. Your niche is not about you building a brand. Your niche is about going, what type of reader do I want to serve? What type of reader do I want to help? What type of reader do I want to supply with a story, right? And if you think about it through that lens, the decision becomes much easier. If you remove yourself and you go, what's my niche? The question or the answer to what's my niche is actually the answer to the question of what type of reader do I want to serve? And if you want to serve readers who are interested in fantasy, for example, then that becomes your niche. You're like, oh, I'm going to serve that type of reader, right? Or a more specific subcategory within fantasy. So this is, I mean, we might be drinking out of a fire hose a little bit here. These are things that took me 10 years to learn. Okay. So my goal, and I feel very passionate about educating writers on these ways of thinking because this took me such a long time to understand. And it also, all of these things, added up are why I felt so stuck for so long because I didn't understand what the game was actually about. All right. So you can start to see how these ideas all build on each other, right? The value of your value is the value you provide the reader. Okay. How do you provide more value to the reader? Well, it's by saying something different or packaging the same thing in a new and different way, right? The reader is the main character, not you. And the way you deliver on that for the reader is by realizing that your niche is not about you. Your niche is the interests of the reader, of the category. Okay. All that makes sense? Good. All right. So now we can segue into some of the nitty gritty. So, with all of that in mind, we go back to the question, so how do you make money as a writer? There are really only a couple ways to make money as a writer. And this is one of those, like, I find it very uh, ironic that the worlds of fiction, storytelling, literature, etc., are kept so far away from the world of copywriting, business models, ghostwriting, monetization. These two worlds are almost like not allowed to mingle with each other. And I think what has informed my perspective on writing is the fact that I graduated from college with a degree in fiction writing. I studied literature. I studied literature abroad in college. I spent 6 weeks in Prague and 4 weeks in Italy, and I read Italian literature and I read all the short stories and Nabokov and Dostoevsky. I love that world. But I also graduated from college and was like, all right, I literally can't get a job doing anything else. I didn't do very well in school. I'm not good at anything other than writing. So I got to figure out how to make money as a writer. And so I ended up going down the opposite road, which was copywriting and ghostwriting and working at an ad agency and learning business models. And so, because many times what happens with writers is they get introduced to one of those two worlds and that never the two shall meet, right? You get introduced to literature or fiction and you stay over there, or you get interested in advertising and marketing and copywriting and ghostwriting and you stay over there. That has not been my experience. I have a foot in both worlds. I still read literature more than I read anything else. But I also spend a lot of my day building writing related businesses and generating money. So this has given me a very unique perspective on, you know, why I think like it's such a disservice to writers to say that these two worlds should be kept separate when they shouldn't. You would make more money as a fiction writer or as a storyteller or as a literary writer if you understood business and if you understood business models. And you would produce better work if you weren't just a marketer, but if you actually studied the greats and understood what made great writing, right? So how you actually make money as a writer, it doesn't really matter what, if it's nonfiction or fiction, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in, category, subcategory. There's really only a handful of business models. Okay. So you have, we'll say attention, which is usually views, and I'll explain how each of these work here in a second. You have affiliate, which is like promoting someone else's products and you getting a percentage cut for it. You have information, which is really like digital products. You have services, which is you doing it for someone else. Okay. That's about it. That's about it. And so what you have to decide is you have to go, okay, how do I want to make money from my writing? Because each one of these has different benefits and has different problems. So I will tell you that the vast majority of writers want to believe and they want to get paid for attention. So they want to believe if I just hit publish on the internet, someone, they don't know who, they don't know where the money's coming from, but someone will deposit money into my bank account. Okay. Now, I actually have a lot of experience with this model because in 2016, I wrote a daily column for Inc. magazine. Inc. magazine was like a business publication, and they paid me 1 cent per page view. Okay. So we're talking a very minuscule amount of money. And the only reason that I was able to make that somewhat lucrative for myself, I got up to maybe making somewhere in the ballpark of like $3,000 to $6,000 per month. The only reason that I was able to make thousands of dollars a month doing that is because I wrote a column every single day for a year, not longer, 2 years. So my output was incredibly high, and I spent all of my time studying and trying to reverse engineer how articles went viral because I wasn't getting paid per word. I wasn't getting paid for my effort. I was getting paid for my outcome. So I only made more money when I went viral. So I had to deploy a tremendous amount of volume and I had to perform, I had to go viral in order to make even three to $6,000 per month. Now, this model of getting paid per page view was very popular in the mid 2010s. Now, almost no publication does this. This model has been retired. It doesn't work anymore. The economics of this model don't work anymore. Around a similar time, around 2018, 2019, Medium did something similar. Medium created a paywall and they would pay per page view or per read on Medium. This was like a modified version of what the publications were doing. And Medium's original hypothesis was we want to build sort of the writing version of Spotify, right? How has the music industry changed? Well, instead of buying and selling albums, musicians now get paid per listen, right? Per stream. The challenge with that is, I mean, we could spend a lot of time talking about the challenges of that business model, but the challenge of that is how do you effectively disperse the money, right? Because customers are paying $10 a month, $15 a month. How do you disperse $15 a month across potentially 100 different artists that the listener is listening to? Medium runs into the same problem. So Medium, I ended up doing the same thing. I wrote a Medium article a day and I republished all my viral articles there. And I actually got up to making 10 grand a month on Medium doing this. That might sound really easy. It was not. It was an incredible amount of volume. It was very taxing. And most importantly, it didn't last forever. This lasted maybe 2 years. And then the economics of Medium's business model fell apart and they were like, we can't afford to do this. We can't afford to pay per page view. They were expecting Medium to grow a lot more than it did. And now fast forward, 5, 6 years later, Medium is like a shell of the platform it used to be. Right. The distribution you get there is a lot less than what you got in 2018. And so this is how a lot of writers want to make their money. But ironically, it is the most difficult and least likely business model. You don't want to get paid just for views. You don't. Because the only way to make it work is for you to deploy a ridiculous amount of volume and for you to basically go viral every single week. That's a very high bar. That's very, very hard to do. Now, the second category is you write about a category or a topic, and then instead of you building your own products, you drive traffic to someone else's products. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. Like if you link to books, for example, Amazon has an affiliate program. Well, if you're going to talk about books that you're reading and you're going to link to them, you might as well get a little cut for the traffic that you drive to Amazon, right? Or we have a partner program in our ecosystem. If I go, do some guest lecture for some other person's writing community, maybe they could have a link where it's like, all right, if anyone takes one of our writing programs like Ship 30 or Premium Ghostwriting Academy, right, then they can get compensated for that. We have this for our SaaS platform. Our SaaS platform is TypeShare. We have an affiliate program for that. So affiliate is actually, it can be a really great mechanism if you yourself don't really want to learn about building products. If you don't want to learn about monetization, that's fine. You can achieve a band-aid solution by being an affiliate for someone else. Okay, does that make sense? Everyone here is loosely familiar with being an affiliate, right? You're just getting paid to drive traffic. Okay. Now, the third category and the fourth category are my personal favorites. This is where I have made the most money as a writer. These categories, however, also require you to build new skills. You can't just be the writer with your head in the sand and you go, I just love writing and I don't want to learn about business. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but again, you can't turn around and say, why is that writer over there making more money than me? They're making more money than you because they've acquired more skills than you. Not because they're smarter, not because it's harder. They're making more money because they've acquired more skills. So these other categories are extremely lucrative, but they require you to be more than just a writer. You have to learn some of these other skills. Now, information is like an umbrella where there's lots of different sub business models that you could do here. So, one is you might have like a community, like a school group or a circle group or some sort of paid membership community. You might have a paid newsletter. So you pay, $7 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month. You're subscribed to a paid newsletter with some sort of exclusive content, right? You might have low ticket digital products, right? This would be like $100 to $350 like text and video course or PDF or a bundle of templates, right? Information can take on a lot of different forms. These are the most popular ones. Community is usually $99 a month or less, some sort of recurring like that. Paid newsletter is almost always $20 a month or less, and that's recurring. And low ticket digital products are usually $99 to $350, and it's just a one-off sale, not recurring. Okay. So, whatever topic you write about, you can sell more information or more templates or more tools to someone who's interested in that topic, right? If you love writing about real estate or how to buy your first rental property, you could have a community where you help people buy their first rental property, or you could have a paid newsletter about trends in the area that you live in to help people buy their first rental property, or you could have a low ticket digital product showing people from A to Z how to buy their first rental property, right? So the digital product is directly connected to the topic that you write about. Again, you do not matter. The interests of the reader are what matter. Okay. So information is really great. Now, the challenge of selling information is that it's slower to start and you need more volume, right? You need traffic. If you're selling something that's $20 a month, well, you need a lot of people subscribing in order to get that number up to where you're making $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, right? You're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of customers. So that's fine. That's great. But digital products are slower to start and they require you to build some skills where you have to get good at driving traffic. You have to get good at accruing volume, right? You need a lot of customers. The last way is actually the opposite of digital products, and it is selling services. So services are where you take the thing you're already doing for yourself and you sell it to someone else. The way I like thinking about this is you're collecting a dividend on your skills. So, what does this mean? This means if you enjoy writing newsletters, you can double monetize by ghostwriting newsletters for someone else. If you enjoy writing social content, you can double monetize by ghostwriting social content for someone else. If you enjoy writing fiction books, you can double monetize by ghostwriting fiction books for someone else. Does everyone see the theme here? So all services are is you taking something that you're already doing for yourself, right? It's you already like writing this sort of thing, or you already have the skills of being a writer, and you can make money by providing or renting that skill out to someone else. Services are how I services completely changed my life. When I was 26, it was like a decade ago. When I was 26, my first job out of college was I worked as a very low paid copywriter at an ad agency. Okay. I was making like one notch above minimum wage. And I liked what I was doing, but I was not making any money and I really didn't see a path forward getting promoted or growing at this agency. It was a very small agency. And eventually I had a great boss, I had a great mentor. And after like 3.5 years, I decided, you know what? I think I have enough skills. I want to try being a freelance writer on my own. And honestly, my only expectation was I was like, you know what? If I could just pay my rent and have some extra time each day to work on my own writing, I'm happy. I wasn't trying to get rich. I was just trying to reclaim some time and get to work on my own writing. And I quit my job and very randomly, I fell into the world of ghostwriting, ghostwriting for business owners. And all I was doing was at the time, I was writing one Quora answer and one Inc. magazine column per day. I was writing on Quora because that was my daily writing habit, and I was writing on Inc. magazine because I was trying to supplement my income. I was producing a tremendous amount of volume. And so when I fell into ghostwriting, what service did I provide? The service I provided was just let me rent my skill of writing articles to you. I was already writing an 800 word article or two every single day. I was already doing that thing. I was already practicing that skill on my own. And I got paid to rent that skill to someone else. And by providing services and by renting that skill, I went from making minimum wage to quitting my job to making $250,000 a year, working like 4 hours a day, ghostwriting for business owners. And then I took that and I ended up linking up with one of my best friends and we built a whole ghostwriting agency. We scaled that to hundreds of clients, millions of dollars in revenue. I had a team of writers, I had a team of editors, we had a team of salespeople. I took this very basic idea of I already have this skill, let me just go provide it to other people. And I took it very far and I scaled it very far. And so the idea that I want to present to all of you is that oftentimes writers feel this need or feel like they're in this rush to make money from their own writing. And in reality, one of the best ways to build the skills required to make money from your own writing is to write for someone else. I personally believe that ghostwriting is the single most lucrative and most productive business model for writers. Because if you think about it, like let's just go back to first principles for a second. One of the hardest skills to build as a writer is getting feedback on your work so that you can improve, right? Feedback is baked in to providing a service. When you provide a service to someone else, you have a guaranteed reader. That reader is called the client. And you have a guaranteed reader who is going to be brutally honest with you about whether or not they like what you've created, whether or not it is valuable. If you think about the process of becoming a successful writer from first principles, this is the skill to build. And there is no faster way to build this skill than having a guaranteed reader who is going to be brutally honest with you about the value of your value. And the cool part is that not only do you get that feedback and you get to practice, but you get paid a premium to do it. So when I was ghostwriting, I was literally practicing the skill of writing for 8 to 10 hours a day. And then I got to send the client an invoice and say, and that'll be $5,000. And that's why I think it is such a fascinating career path for writers because the reason that you aren't achieving the things that you want to achieve is because somewhere you have a skill deficit. You have things that you're not as good at them as you think you are, or you're just not there yet. And that's okay. I wasn't there yet for a long time either. So what is the fastest path? Is the fastest path like hacking away at it for, 45 minutes every other night before bed? Or is the fastest path to put yourself in a situation where you have a guaranteed reader who's going to be brutally honest with you and push you to grow and pays you a premium along the way. And if I look back, I think the reason why I am the writer today is because I ended up spending 6 years ghostwriting 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. I racked up a tremendous amount of practice and volume and pattern recognition writing for other people. That's why I think it's such an incredible career path. So, does all of this make sense? Maybe if anyone shares, do any of these jump out to you as this is a business model that you want to pursue? Or is there one that you're gravitating to? Because ultimately, like, this is how you make money as a writer. Andrea, do you have to put in 10 hours a day? No, no, of course not. You know, of course not. Um, a lot of these things are very doable if you choose the right direction and you find ways to invest in your own learning and education, find people who can accelerate the acquisition of those skills. Yeah. I mean, these are not difficult skills to build, like work on it a couple hours a week, chip away at it, right? How do you find your audience for a niche digital product? The digital product is just a larger version of the thing you're already writing about for free. That's all. So if you write about, let's say you write about how to save money when you're a college student, you write about that topic for free on social platforms. Your digital product is, well, let me take some of the big ideas that people are clearly resonating with and let me expand it into an ebook. Let me expand it into a crash course, text and video guide. It's just the expanded version of the thing that you already see working. Yeah, what other questions? These are good questions. We got some time. And also, Derek, if there's anything top of mind for you, feel free to jump in. Greg, is ghostwriting at risk of being saturated or diluted? Okay, so no. Like not even close. I started ghostwriting in 2016. In 2016, everybody said ghostwriting is a fad and ghostwriting is a trend and ghostwriting is not going to last. And every single year, I have watched demand for ghostwriting go up. The thing about ghostwriting that people misunderstand, there's three opportunities that ghostwriters solve. Okay. Every single business owner on planet Earth has the same three problems. Every business owner wants to build their personal brand to drive organic traffic to their website, to their business, to their product, to their service. Every single business owner wants to collect more emails of potential customers. So they want to build their email list. And every single business owner wants to convert more of those free email subscribers into paying customers. There is not a single business on earth that doesn't want one or two or all three of these things. And so with ghostwriting, the services that you can provide are very simple. It's social ghostwriting to help a founder or a business owner or an executive put out content on the internet. You could build an educational email course to collect emails. Like this is one for one of our writing programs. This is an educational email course. Okay. So over the next 5 days, we're going to help you with these things. Type in your email. This allows you to collect way more emails than if you just push people to a newsletter page. And then once you have the person on your email list, you want to engage them and educate them and sell them. So you have email ghostwriting. The demand for these three services is not it. I can't even explain how much it, not only is it not going down, it is like parabolically up and to the right. Everybody wants these three things. And the vast majority of business owners can't find a good writer to help them, which, by the way, is like the entire focus of our Premium Ghostwriting Academy. This is all we train writers how to do all day, every day. Will AI ever take over ghostwriting? No. So this is one of the big things that we talk about inside PGA is that your value as a writer and as a ghostwriter, only like 30% of your value is the writing. The other 70% of your value is the way that you interact with and manage the client, the way that you help the client clarify their ideas, the way that you stay on top of trends, the way that you use these different platforms and test things. There are all these other tangential skills, right? Like I always love, whenever I do live sessions, I love asking writers, could someone point to me on the keyboard? What is the one key that a business owner can press that automatically sets up all their accounts and manages everything and asks them thoughtful questions and clarifies their thinking and helps them overcome their own faulty beliefs and looks at new trends and tests things and right? So whenever people are like, isn't AI just going to steal all this stuff? I just go, well, where's the key on the keyboard that does those 25 different things? It doesn't work like that. AI can help you write. We literally show writers how to use AI to accelerate the work that they do. But so much of your value is in all the skills that surround the writing. Gordon mentioned it seems to be almost impossible to reach that level of expertise in my 70s. I I my personal belief is I really don't think so. First of all, a very common problem is that people take for granted the knowledge they already have. Whenever something is really familiar to us, we don't value it. You know, I like thinking of this like when anything that you've experienced, you have an information advantage. If you've worked in any industry, you have an information advantage of that industry. If you've worked in any role within an industry, you have an information advantage about that role, right? So, especially when providing services, but this is also true with information, your niche is just wherever you have an information advantage. And the hard part with writing is not building the skill of writing. The hard part with writing is knowing things and having an information advantage about a topic or about an industry. The biggest challenge I had at 23 years old was not, I don't know how to write. The biggest challenge I had was, I literally just graduated from college and I don't know that much about the world. I don't have an information advantage, right? So learning to write and like the nuances of like how do you write a good sentence or how do you format something? Those are very easy skills to learn. I train writers on how to do it every day. They're very easy skills to learn. What's much harder is getting someone to understand like, hey, you've been working in this industry for 20 years. You have a tremendous information advantage. You should go ghostwrite for people in that industry, right?
Paul, can I ask a question that nobody's asking in the chat, but certainly is in my mind,
Field
and
away.
it's around the money. So you throw around like 5K, 10K, that sort of stuff. And I reckon that writers, a lot of writers who just read writing content, on Substack or whatever it might be, have like quite a poverty mindset and don't realize the value of the writing skill to a business.
Yep.
So could you maybe just explain why a ghostwriter could be getting paid, thousands of dollars for maybe four articles, which people knock out on Substack or Medium all the time, and we might, as writers, might not realize how valuable that skill is. But when you take
That's
it to a business, it's different game, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a fantastic point. So I'll tell everyone a little story here. So this was our very first writing program. Notice how the educational email course pops up here. So this was our very first writing program. It was called Ship 30 for 30. And it was a 30-day cohort based writing program. So you would sign up and we would kick off the cohort and it would be live. And for 30 days, we would all write together. When we started this in 2021, what me and my business partner Dickie would do is we would write about these ideas on social platforms, and then we would tell people, "Hey, we've got a cohort for Ship 30 for 30 coming up," and we would send people to the homepage here. The problem with sending people to a homepage here is I might share this link with everyone here, and you might go to the homepage and you might scroll through it, and then you leave. And I have no idea who you are. I have no way of contacting you, right? You just went to our homepage and you scrolled, but now I have no way of following up with you. I have no way of interacting with you. I have no way of educating you, right? And after running Ship 30 for about 6 months, like it was growing, it was doing really well. We were generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. And we started to realize that the majority of the money that we would make would really happen the week before we would start a cohort. And it would happen from people that we had, like the people who bought were people on our email list because we would send them a bunch of emails being like, hey, the cohort kicks off in 7 days, 6 days, 5 days, right? So we asked ourselves, okay, how do we get more people on our email list? And what we did is we created an educational email course. So when we would write about these topics on social platforms, instead of sending people to the Ship 30 homepage, we started sending them to an asset that was actually helpful to them. We said, hey, we'll give you some free education. You type in your email. Going back to your question, Derek, of like, who would be willing to pay $5,000 for this? This is, by the way, what we train ghostwriters to do first inside of PGA is we teach them how to build these 5-day educational email courses and how to sell them to business owners for $5,000. Okay. So who would be willing to pay that? Well, we lived this. When we created this educational email course, we collected 10 times as many emails and we quadrupled the business. So we went from doing, maybe like $300,000 a year in revenue to up over $1 million a year in revenue. We grew the business tremendously by doing one thing: collect more emails. So why would we pay someone $5,000 to build this for us? Well, because the impact of this was literally millions of dollars. We built this educational email course 5 years ago. It still runs today. So this is where writers really you have to educate yourself on the value of your value, right? When you're ghostwriting social content for a business owner, that social content might drive customers that are worth thousands of dollars to the business. When you ghostwrite newsletters that convert free subscribers into paying customers, that might be worth thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to a business. So why would someone pay $5,000 for you to help them? Because the upside is literally 100x that. And most writers just don't know that.
Yeah, that's great. Great point. A couple of other questions there, Cole. We've got one from Greg and one from Charles. So Charles there, he's asking about how do you find clients?
How do you find clients? So clients are everywhere. Obviously, this is a huge thing we talk about inside PGA, but I would bet the thing that I tell every writer to start with is I would bet that you already have 5 clients in your life somewhere right now. You just don't realize it. A client could be that family member that started a business and they're really struggling to get traffic on LinkedIn. A client could be a former coworker. A client could be a mentor who ended up starting a business and they need some help with email. Chances are you have 5 clients in your direct vicinity, one deviation away from you. You just take it for granted and you don't know it. One of the things that we walk writers through is you should exhaust all of the opportunities around you first. And then whatever industry you're in, if you're in real estate or you're in, you know, finance or you're in health and wellness or you're in supplements or whatever industry that you're in or that you want to write about or you have an information advantage in, you go find people in that industry and you educate them on one of these 3 problems. And obviously, inside PGA, the thing that we show you how to do is how to do that. Here's how to spot the problems. Here's how to point them out. Here's how to reach out to someone in a way that's helpful, not salesy, right?
And then we've got Greg has dropped a question. about, so he's already convinced ghostwriting is the way forward. He wants to know what you would say to him. I'm not sure if he's got a specific question, Greg, or if you just want suggestion of the next steps.
I mean, Greg, I would say come join us inside PGA. If you go to premiumghostwritingacademy.com and you click join PGA, just fill out this little survey. We just do this to get a quick diagnostic on where you're starting from. Anyone else here is interested, you're more than welcome to do that. We just use this as a way of understanding where you're starting from. And then yeah, we would reach out and book a call with you. That would be great. If prompted right, do you think a writer can get an objective critical review via AI? Of course. I use AI in everything that I write. And we give writers all of the prompts that I built for myself and I use and we use internally as a team.
I've just dropped the link in the chat call for PGA.
Yeah, there you go. If anyone's interested, go ahead and this is the free resource that we give everyone who's interested in ghostwriting. I encourage you to go through that. We've had thousands of writers go through that. I spent a lot of time building it. I think even if you just want to educate yourself on that career path, I think it's a great way of getting up to speed. But yeah, that's where I would start. Awesome. This was great, Derek.
Yeah, yeah. Funny, I mean, I've got when I had first started writing in 2023, I was on Twitter and I'd commented on a property brand that I was following because I was invested in property and that sort of stuff, and I was just messing about. And I'd been on Twitter for about 4 months, and then they DM'd me, right? So I knew very little about writing, but they DM'd me said, "Do you know anyone who ghostwrites for us? Who could ghostwrite for us?" So I was just like, I don't know, me. I hardly knew what ghostwriting was, you know. And they didn't pay. I mean, they paid me a fortune for what I thought it was at the time, which was like $125 an hour. I mean, it's peanuts to what I probably could have charged. But even at that point, I was still. It blew my mind that a business could pay you money to write for them, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like knew nothing at the time, so I didn't really pitch myself very well, and I still didn't kind of quite believe it. So when you're talking about that, it's like realizing that actually, yeah, there's so many businesses out there that are just desperate for the skill to get clients and attention, really.
Yep. Yeah, there's more opportunity than people understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Like an overwhelming amount of opportunity. So, for everyone here, if you want to make money from your writing, I would strongly encourage you to consider providing a service.
Cool. Last minute or so, if anybody has got any other questions. Uh, Ivana, I think she's asking whether you could write your own stuff as well if you have ideas. And
I
then,
mean, of course,
yeah,
right? Of course, that's how we kicked things off. If you have your own ideas, by all means, go write them. But if the question is, how do I make the most money, or how do I even just make money as a writer, it's important to understand that your value is dependent on the value that you provide someone else.
yeah.
Do you suggest offering one-on-one coaching or a digital class to clients? I mean, you can. These are all options, but I will tell you from experience that the fastest and most lucrative path is providing services. All right, Derek, this was great. I got to jump,
Yeah,
but
yeah, cool. And we
this
will
was
send the recording out to everybody. And so, yeah, appreciate your time, call, and for answering all the questions.
awesome. Thanks
Yeah,
everyone for blocking the time and showing up. I really appreciate it.
yeah, lots of thanks in the questions and stuff. So,
Yeah,
yeah, cheers, appreciate that. See you later.
great.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, bye bye.